The UFC is headed back to Saudi Arabia in 2025 for a fight night, but they are bringing a pay-per-view caliber card with them. My name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks, and I'm going to break down the entire UFC Saudi Arabia fight card, giving you my picks, predictions, and bets. But before I do that, let me remind you that we have a whole bunch of bets on the board right now for multiple events. I'm filming this at the end of December. We got a little bit of a break before the next fight card, but that doesn't stop us from breaking down fights, from getting ahead of the lines, and giving you bets early and often. If you go to WeWantPicks.com right now, you can unlock all the bets we have on the board for the future. We have 11 bets on the board right now between a couple of different cards, and that's over 10 units of bets, a nice mixed bag of parlays and money lines. And obviously, as we get closer, we're going to unlock some of those prop bets and we'll hammer those as well. You can check out all of those bets right now in the app. We have an app. We spent a ton of money and a ton of time developing an app. It's easy to use. It is 100% free and is available right now in the iOS App Store. And before all of you Android crybabies say something, we're working on an Android app. We had an Android app. And we had to pull it from the store because the login just wasn't working correctly. So we're working on it. For now, the non-poors have access to the iPhone app. And that's just a joke. Don't get your panties all wadded up. But we do have a ton of bets on the board. And the app will give you access, obviously, to those bets, but also the picks, the tools, the breakdowns, and more. One of the bets that's been wildly successful is the safety parlay. If you're new here, well, we have a $10 a month service. It's freaking $10. And that $10 gets you access to every single thing that we do. We don't have any weird tiers. It's not like, oh, for $10 you can get bets, but the DFS is separate, or none of that bullshit. It's $10 for an entire month. And that month will give you access to every single thing that we do. One single bet that we do, one of many, is the safety parlay. It's a parlay that we call safe. We put a little juice behind it, trust it more than anything else we can trust, and it has become the beacon of stability in this space. Betting on MMA is not an easy thing to do. These are fist fights. One tiny little thing can change an entire fight. How many times have we seen somebody dominate just to get knocked out with 10 seconds left? So in that regard, to have a single bet that hit 9 of the last 10 times, to put up a 69% ROI is absolutely astonishing. You can unlock the safety parlay right now. WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. It's $10 a whole month. Think about all the money you just wasted on busted scratch-offs for stockings that you could have thrown at this to make some real money. And it's not just the safety parlay doing well. Here's a look at the last 15 fight cards. Smoked, 24% ROI on just the last 15 fight cards. A 24% ROI long-term is insane, especially betting on sports, especially betting on the most volatile sport to bet on. So unlock all the picks, the bets, the tools like the data analyzer. Data analyzer right now is built out for the future. It's every single event that's officially announced and officially listed. Well into 2025, you get full access to all of the data, the insight, the analytics for every fighter on all of those cards. And then you can use the analyzer to add filters and do whatever you want to do to find your spots. It is getting a facelift. We'll announce that facelift shortly once it's done. And premium members will just have access to the new, better 2.0 version. You're also going to have access to the line movement tracker. This is going to give you the opening odds, current odds, win probability, line movement for every fighter on every card. The Prop Hunter, a curated set of data specifically designed to help you find prop bets. Every single thing I just mentioned, $10 effing dollars. 10. Think about what an insignificant amount of money that is. And the reason it's $10, the reason we're keeping it at $10 despite constantly adding new tools and improving what's already there, is because this is the Costco model. If you don't know Costco, it is a giant wholesale store, but they have incredibly high quality products at what you would know is the best price. You walk into a Costco, you are positive you're going to get the best product at the best price. That's it. You just know that. One of the things they sell, and here's a ridiculous comparison, but this is where this whole $10 a month thing came from. One of the things they sell is a $1.50 hot dog and a soda. It's a big ass, high quality hot dog and a soda. It has been $1.50 for like 50 years. And they keep trying to change the price. And the founder and the CEO was like, no, that will be $1.50 forever. We're not touching it. Same with the Arizona iced tea guy. If you're an American, you know Arizona iced tea, that big ass can of iced tea. It's 99 cents. Despite inflation, Despite change times, when I was a kid, it was 99 cents. Today, it is 99 cents. And that's the model we are in. $10 a month, a very accessible price point that we're never going to adjust because we are in the volume business. Right now, we have over 4,000 premium members. And that's because it's a phenomenal product at what is already the best price in the game. So if you want to unlock everything we do at freaking $10 and come along for the ride this success wave that we've been having, WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. If not, that's fine. Just don't come complaining to me if you don't have as much success as we do. Also, we got a little bit of a break. We're filming a couple of vlogs. I film a holiday vlog. That's actually already filmed, ready to go. The editor's probably staring at it, not editing as quickly as he should be. Drew, if you're watching this, that's a shot at you. We're also going to be filming 2 more vlogs in January. One, there's a local fight promotion here in Texas, North Texas, in Frisco, actually, putting on a show. We're talking to them. We're going to go. We're going to attend that show, maybe give away some money, and then do a vlog for that. And then also, Jakey Boy and I are going to UFC Vegas 101, the first fight back in 2025. I have never been to the Apex, so I'm going to vlog that whole experience. On the vlogs, we do what we call a mail day. You send us stuff, we open it, we read it, we do all the things. If you have a small business, if you just want to write a letter. Some guy was sending me bottle caps from his junk drawer in 1925. Anything you want to send, We Want Picks, P.O. Box 406, Prosper, Texas, 75078. Now, let's go ahead and break down this card. I mentioned this is a good card. We have 13 fights right now. This card's not for a little bit, and that's why these early breakdowns are so important, because we can get ahead of some of the lines. I'll tell you right now, some of these lines are already wide, but I don't imagine they're going to get better. I imagine they're going to get even wider. So if you have access to these odds, I believe DraftKings and BetOnline have most of these bets. If you have access to them, take a look now before you lose any of the value. Currently opening up the UFC Saudi Arabia fight card, we have Firas Ziam taking on Mike Davis. Firas Ziam, long, rangy striker. He works really well in the clinch. He will manage that range with some leg kicks. When he decides to close that distance, he works to that clinch. He'll throw elbows inside of that clinch. He's a technical fighter. He tries to avoid risk. He picks his shots really well, and he's only going to engage if he sees an opportunity. He takes his time. He looks to point his way to a victory. He is, however, coming off of a win over Matt Frevola, where all of a sudden, Firas Ziam is a dangerous guy and got his first ever UFC finish. He's taking on Mike Davis. Mike Davis is a phenomenal fighter. He's fast, he's athletic, he's very powerful, and he transitions to wrestling well. His kicks are incredible, and he will just double tap the body and then smack the head before putting his foot back on the mat. He's incredibly well-rounded. He has showcased that in his last 4 fights, where he had a combined 14 takedowns. He is coming off that finish win over Natan Levy, where we saw the power. He's also coming off of a little bit of bad luck. Mike Davis is a very real prospect, and that bad luck continues to follow him around. He's incredibly talented. He has a spectacular resume. His only 2 losses are to Sadiq Youssef on the Contender Series and then Gilbert Burns in his UFC debut. But the bad luck comes in when we see the injuries. He's had incredibly long layoffs, a couple of years between fights, because he keeps getting hurt. Most recently, a bicep tear. The problem with continuing to get hurt are the long layoffs. You never know what you're going to get when he comes back. So far, we've gotten improved versions. Every time Mike Davis comes up, he shows up, he steps into that octagon. Despite the layoff, he's putting on a show. So Mike Davis is going to be the pick because I think he's the better fighter overall, certainly the more dangerous fighter. And as long as this layoff doesn't affect him, he should be good to go. But he is 32 years old. He doesn't have much time left to live up to the prime. This is the prime of his career right now, and he can't afford multiple year layoffs after every single fight. So Mike Davis is going to be the pick. We don't have odds yet for this fight, but if this is remotely close in odds, I'm going to hammer the shit out of him. Mike Davis is the better fighter pretty much everywhere. Faster, more athletic. Maybe he's not the more technical striker, but he certainly hits hard as hell, has a versatile striking array, meaning he'll kick, he'll punch, he'll elbow, and he's got phenomenal wrestling. Mike Davis is the very confident pick. We're just waiting for odds to do something with that. I keep looking out my window because my neighbor just got home and he shot his first duck. If you don't know, I'm a hunter, not like a tried and true backwoods kind of hunter, but I got into hunting last year. We go out in the field, we shoot some doves. If you watch the vlogs, you've seen it. We haven't had any success shooting ducks. We went out duck hunting 3-4 times. Waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning, all that bullshit. Nothing. Can't get a duck. Can't even see a duck. Last time we got close, there was one heading towards us. My buddy's doing the duck call, but he's terrible at it. And then there was people on the other side of the lake. They're good at duck calls. This bird looked right at us, turned around, went to them. They shot it. Haven't been back. Last night we're at dinner. They said, hey, you want to go duck hunting in the morning? And I was like, yeah, of course. Of course. We've got a nice little spot. We met a farmer. He said, you can use my land. But then last night, we're seeing screenshots of the weather, supposed to thunderstorm. I fell asleep. I wake up in the morning to a whole bunch of texts between him and my other buddy, Alex, the guy who cooked the brisket, saying, all right, let's go. We're going to do it anyway. We'll get out in the morning. I wake up. Not only do I see that they went out and I fell asleep, so I missed it, he also got his first duck, a picture of him holding a duck. So I'm a little annoyed. I see he just got home. He pulled into his driveway. He got a duck. I didn't. Instead, I'm sitting in here filming this for you. What an absolute joke. We got Abdul-Kareem, and also any dumb dick dork who's like, "Who just get to the pics, bro." Do me a favor. Go fuck yourself. I am filming this a month and a half early. So you're welcome. You'll put up with a little bit of rambling, or you can go find some dweeb with a topology background that's just reading dots on a screen. Those are your two options. You got a problem with the rambling? I'm not for you. We got Abdul-Kareem Al-Selwady taking on Jordan Leavitt. Another pretty confident pick coming your way. Abdul-Kareem Al-Selwady. He's a former forward pressure striker. He never sits still. He's constantly working on fast twitch actions. He has a low stance. He'll duck that chin. He'll pump out some feints. He likes to close the distance and then just fire overhand rights. He's got plenty of movement. He's got plenty of feints, but he is hit a ton. His striking defense is not really there. His takedown defense is solid, though, but that's mostly based in speed more than just clean technique. What he does do really well is work in offensive takedowns. He's so dangerous on the feet that people aren't even worried about the wrestling. They forget that it's there. And then bang, well-timed takedown right behind a couple of strikes. He is coming off a UFC debut loss, though, to Loik Radzhabov, where he was winning the fight. The wild striking, the wrestling was all working well for him. Then he got a little too crazy in the third round where he was dropped and finished. He's taking on Jordan Leavitt, old school grappler. And I do a lot of breakdowns where I open it up with forward pressure striker or well-rounded fighter who does XYZ. That's not the breakdown you're going to get here because Jordan Leavitt is not a well-rounded fighter. He's very one-dimensional. He's got trash wrestling, trash striking, but good jiu-jitsu. The problem with Jordan is that because his striking kind of sucks, he can't use it to set up takedowns. And because his wrestling kind of sucks, he only has a 25% takedown accuracy. He needs perfect, well-timed shots to get takedowns, and those are hard to come by when there's no threat for strikes. So now we have a very good jiu-jitsu guy who has really no ability to get it to the ground on his own, and he's coming off that submission loss to Chase Hooper. Jordan Leavitt is essentially Ryan Hall or Crone Gracie, a one-dimensional guy who has not evolved with the sport. Jordan gets smoked in this fight. He gets smoked. He's not going to be able to hang in the striking. He's not going to be able to get some takedowns. And as soon as we have odds, my entire mortgage on this house will be going on Al-Selwady. Sorry, Jordan. Very likable guy. Really fun on Instagram. Does all the things, but without striking and wrestling, what do we do? This isn't a Fury grappling competition. This is a fist fight in a cage. And the only time he's having success is against guys that are dumb enough to take him down that have no jiu-jitsu defense. And that's the end of that sentence because those are the only people he's going to beat. Then we have Terrance McKinney taking on Damir Hadzovic. Terrance McKinney, massive favorite already. We're a month out from this fight. He's a minus 455 favorite. And it all makes sense until you look at his record, until you watch some fights and you see the mistakes that he's made that has gotten him losses that shouldn't necessarily have been losses. He is an incredibly talented guy. Terrance McKinney has solid hands, solid wrestling, solid BJJ. I have said this many, many times before. If Terrance McKinney had cardio and a chin, he would be phenomenal because he has every single tool you would want in a fighter. He's fast, he's athletic, he's got striking, he's got wrestling. He's aggressive, but he's got no cardio and no chin whatsoever. He's feast or famine. 10 fights in the UFC, 10 fights that have never seen a third round. He is coming off that KO loss to Esteban Ribovics. He's taking on Damir Hadzovic. He's an okay striker. He wants to march forward. He's going to throw punches. Those are designed to get you to the cage so he can take you down. If he gets you down, he is all hammer. He stays busy on top. He has lost to some decent guys like Renato Moicano, Christos Gallegos, but his UFC wins don't really hold up as well as every single one of the wins were not against UFC opponents. He's beaten some people in the UFC, and none of them are on the roster anymore. So Damir Hadzovic has no wins whatsoever on any actual UFC fighters. He is coming off that loss to Mark DeCasey, where he was taken down 8 times and only landed 5 total strikes. So Damir should not win this fight, right? He's old. He doesn't have a single win over an active UFC fighter. He's less skilled. He's coming off a ridiculous 2.5-year layoff. So yes, Damir Hadzovic should lose and Terrance McKinney should win. I'm going to pick Terrance McKinney, but I can't bet this guy. Not at these odds. He's unreliable. He's chinny. Throwing money at a minus 455 favorite is not a wise decision in this spot. He is not somebody you can trust. If he doesn't get Damir out of there early, God knows what's going to happen. God knows what's going to happen. You cannot trust this minus 455 favorite. Maybe we get lucky. People hammer the dog and the odds tighten. If he was 2-1 favorite, I'd be all over it. Almost a 5-1 favorite. One of the most unreliable, most talented guys in this division. Can't touch it. Ignore it. Just move on and enjoy this fight. Then we got Bogdan Grad taking on Lucas Alexander. This is going to be an interesting fight. We got a talented guy who hasn't had success in the UFC and a relatively unproven guy who has had plenty of success outside of the UFC. And that's Bogdan Grad. He's a well-rounded guy. He's got solid striking. Very straightforward. He's going to stick to some jabs. He will set things up instead of chasing knockouts. He has heavy kicks. He likes to invest in the legs early to slow you down. He will work in some wrestling as well. He's going to attempt multiple takedowns and then focus on control time instead of submissions. He is a well-rounded guy who will make adjustments in the fight. He's taken on UFC staple, I guess. He's had 3-4 fights in the UFC already, but not a ton of success, Lucas Alexander. He is a powerful striker. He likes to showcase. He uses kicks really well to manage range, and then he will explode inside the pocket. He's got okay grappling. It's mostly defensive, but he uses that defensive wrestling to end up on top, to win grappling scrambles. He has big power, diverse striking, solid training partners, and when he has cardio, it is a bit inconsistent, he's a very real threat. He's coming off that KO loss to Jekka Saragai a year ago. And if you look at Bogdan's record on the surface, he looks like a killer. He's got 11 stoppages, but he is a very controlled fighter. He doesn't go looking for finishes. His record is definitely inflated a bit, and I don't expect that same finish level to happen at the UFC as it did on the regional scene, but I do think he wins this fight. Lucas is definitely the more dangerous of the two, but he's chaotic. And if Bogdan can lay out those leg kicks early to slow him down, sneak in a couple of takedowns when Lucas overcommits, all of a sudden Bogdan can slow the pace of this fight, fight the fight he wants to, and then get it done. We don't have odds yet, but if Bogdan is somehow an underdog or an even money, very slight favorite kind of matchup here, then I'll throw a little bit of money on him. He is a UFC debut. He cannot be trusted with any real money. I don't want to see people with, oh, I had a 29 leg parlay and the only miss was Bogdan Grad as a UFC debut. That's an insane thing to do. I don't want to see it. But if you want to throw a little bit on him on his own, we'll see what these odds are. Take a stab at it. Then we have one of the ugliest fighters on the UFC roster, Shamil Gaziev, taking on Thomas Petersen. If you went digging under a bridge and you found a troll, this is it. This is what a troll monster looks like. And it's unfortunate. I mean, you can't help what you look like. You can diet, right? You can go to the gym. You can affect some things. So to have that unfortunate radio face and then still be a bag of jello is just a real bad combination. But luckily, he dedicated his life to being a nonstop wrestler from Dagestan, except that's not who he is. He is a giant Dagestani, but he's not a nonstop wrestler. He's a powerful striker. He'll march forward. He'll land big. He is physically very sloppy, but he'll work in more than one spinning attack, some with athletic. You just don't expect it coming from a man that looks like him. He does have some very real power in his hands. He's got a relaxed striking style. He does have a little bit of wrestling. He's got questionable cardio, right? We've seen it completely fail him, but in his last fight, we did see the cardio look pretty good. He went to a decision with Dontel Mays. He had some clean striking, worked in a pair of takedowns. He's taking on Thomas Petersen. While he's not going to win a beauty pageant anytime himself, next to Shamil, we got Ben Affleck. He's a solid wrestler. He'll work in everything from bear hugs to doubles. His striking isn't great, but he will close the gap with some straight punches, marching forward, and then he'll get you against the cage. He's going to be busy in that clinch. If Petersen can't take his opponents down, he does end up in a little bit of trouble. But if he can, he's got really good control on top, very solid ground and pound. He's coming off that decision win over Muhammad Usman, where he was sloppy as hell and slow, but he got the win, and he was effective. Is Shamil a bit of a fraud? Yeah, a little bit. Sure. Was he the guy that the UFC told us he was going to be when they threw him into a main event in his second ever UFC fight? No. No, he wasn't that guy. He got a little bit exposed. But he is definitely good enough to beat Thomas Petersen. Shamil's last fight was an absolute snoozer. But the good news is we got to see his cardio, and it was improved. We're going to see the better fighter almost everywhere. Shamil should be a better wrestler, at least defensively. He's definitely going to be the better striker. He should have some power. So as long as Shamil doesn't death gas like he did just 2 fights ago, and he can keep his composure, he should be able to get it done. Minus 310 on the surface, if the only fight you saw was the loss against Rosenstruck, that looks like pretty shitty odds. But you zoom out a little bit, you look at the bigger picture, his career as a whole. You look at what he did in his last fight. While not exciting, he was able to go 15 minutes. Shamil should win this fight, 3-1 favorite. Honestly, unfortunately, those odds are probably correct. Then we have Jasmine Jasudavicius taking on Mayra Bueno Silva. This is the first ever UFC female fight in Saudi Arabia. Not the first ever female fight in Saudi Arabia. I think PFL held that earlier in 2024 when Clarissa Shields beat Kelsey DeSantis. But for the UFC, this is a big fight. And for the sport, this is a big fight. And I kind of gave Saudi Arabia a hard time for what they're doing to boxing. And not to any fault of their own, but when you pay boxers $200 million and you only sell $50 million worth of pay-per-views, not a great business model. When you put on a 9-hour event, not a great business model. People aren't watching anymore. They're just not. So while it's great, you get some of these tremendous matchups because Saudi Arabia is just printing money. The problem is, you're not building any new superstars. Boxing only has 2 pay-per-view draws right now. They have a gentleman who just lost in a heavyweight main event, and then they have Canelo. Canelo's pretty young, might have a couple years left. People are going to say, oh, Gervonta Davis is a pay-per-view draw. No, he's not. He's not. And he's talking about retiring. The only other pay-per-view draw you could build right now is crazy-ass Ryan Garcia, but you suspended him. So this is a long rant to say, good on Saudi Arabia for opening their mind, letting women fight in their country. And, you know, they just have a different belief system than us. Who am I to judge that? But it is nice to see that we're getting a full UFC fight card loaded with men and women. Don't know if we're going to have ring girls. We didn't have ring girls last time. We might not this time. But anyway, we got Jasmine Jasudavicius. Nasty wrestler. She likes to come forward, push that pace. She'll throw some strikes. She'll hang in the striking department, but there's always a takedown followed behind it. She's got a good clinch. She'll control your body. She'll throw knees. She'll shoot very clean takedowns right up the middle, and that's because she has an actual wrestling background. She's not somebody that just went to the gym and learned how to wrestle. She wrestled her whole life and then came over to MMA, and she's taking all of those skills with her. She's an absolute dog. She is gritty. She is grindy. She will come forward. She's not somebody you can break, and she is coming off that dominant win over Ariana Lipski, where she had the takedowns and the control, and she somehow blew out the over 2.5 by 2 freaking seconds. She's taking on Mayra Bueno Silva. She is a divisional staple. She's a pretty good striker, solid power, good kicks. She likes charging forward and throwing from there. She's very good grappler as well. And like so many others, though, the problem is she doesn't have the good wrestling to get fights to the ground. She's one of the more dangerous women in the division, especially on the ground. She's coming off that loss to Macy Chasson, where she was having success. It was stopped in the second round because of a cut. She won the first round. So, assuming there's no cut, she might have went on to win that fight. So don't just look at TKO on the record and assume she got her ass kicked. It was just a bad cut. and the doctor had to stop it. Jasmine's my girl. We've had a ton of success betting on Jasmine Jasudavicius. Many times. Many times she has taken the safety parlay to the promised land. But being a 2-1 favorite over a divisional staple like Mayra Bueno Silva seems a bit wide. I like the wrestling. I like the grit. I like the pressure. And I think she wins. But Mayra Bueno Silva is no joke. Yes, she's on a 2-fight skid, but the first loss was a title fight to Rocky where she had 3 takedowns. And her most recent loss, as I mentioned, was a fight that she was winning, but there was a bad cut. Jasmine should win here. She is going to be the pick. But Jasmine isn't dangerous despite what she did to Ariane Lipski. So she is going to have to fight a perfect 15 minutes to get it done. And I just can't spend 2-1 money on that. Jasmine's going to be the pick. We'll see what the odds are when this fight gets closer. I think she can get the takedowns, grind it out, do what she does. I was just wishing this would be a little bit of a closer matchup. Then we have Hamdy Abdelwahab taking on Jamal Pogues. Honestly, I think I did a great job pronouncing it, and I did a hob. There was a little bit of grit in there too. So, congratulations to me. We got Hamdy. He's coming back after a 2-year USADA suspension. So, not the cleanest of fighters, and a short notice UFC debut. But he is an Olympic wrestler. He's the first Egyptian fighter in the UFC, but I believe he competed in the Olympics for Iran. But he's based out of New York. So lots of diversity in this gentleman's background. He does his camps with that Renzo Gracie team. He is comfortable striking. He's a bit slow, and those strikes are a bit telegraphed. He does have legit power in his hands, and he uses that to set up some takedowns. He has gotten a little too used to striking. We saw that in his last fight where he was clearly the better wrestler, but decided to gunsling instead. He's taking on Jamal Pogues. Jamal Pogues is a busy heavyweight. Always seems to be throwing something, solid enough volume, and he does a decent pace. He does not have that big one-punch heavyweight power that you would expect, though. He can grapple. In his first Contender Series fight, he had 7 takedowns. On the regional scene, he had quite a few as well. He's not particularly dangerous anywhere, but he sets a nice pace, and he can work everywhere. He's coming off that win over Thomas Petersen, who we broke down earlier, where his cardio was terrible. He didn't show much off his back when he was taken down, but the volume did get it done. Hamdy, as I mentioned, the first Egyptian fighter ever in the UFC. Also, an Olympic athlete. Both of those things are incredible accomplishments, and they should be celebrated. But he is a mess. The UFC debut was a sloppy, razor-thin fight, and honestly, kind of a bad decision. Then he pops by USADA, so they suspended him for a few years and overturned that win. But the most ridiculous part about all of this is that while being suspended, coming off that sloppy-ass fight, he's posting on Instagram. It says UFC champion with his sponsors. Literally says UFC champion. And I went back to look for it for this video so I can post a picture of it. They're gone. So I don't know if the UFC told him or he got some backlash like, bro, those pictures have been deleted, but I swear on everything. My children, this lazy-ass dog laying next to me, I swear on everything. This dude was posting pictures on Instagram that said UFC champion. And maybe there's a translation issue, and it was supposed to say, like, first Egyptian fighter and not UFC champion, but this motherfucker was posting to Instagram as a UFC champion. And he is not. UFC debut, trash performance, popped by USADA. The guy's got the skills. He's an Olympic wrestler. Fighting somebody who, when he gets taken down, has nothing to offer. Hamdy is going to be the pick. He should win this fight. But he's made some very questionable decisions. The only quote-unquote pass that you could kind of give him for the USADA thing, which there should be no pass whatsoever, is he took that fight on short notice, so clearly he was using banned substances, but wasn't prepared for the UFC. They just called him. He's like, yeah, I'll do it. And he probably just crossed his fingers and hoped he would be clean. But he wasn't clean, got suspended for 2 years. Would have been better off turning that down, getting clean, and then waiting for the next call. But either way, Hamdy's going to be the pick because of the wrestling, but I don't know what these odds are going to be. He didn't wrestle as much as he should have in his last fight, and he might not here. And who the hell knows? It's been 2 freaking years. Who the hell knows? What I do know, though, is I'll give you $50. Just go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. We have affiliate deals with a bunch of the different books. You basically use the link. You sign up with any one of the affiliate partners using the link. You make your deposit. They're going to pay me. I slice off some of that money and I give it right back to you. That's at WeWantPicks.com/bets. You can then use that money to take a look at premium membership. Right now, we're cruising. We got a couple of weeks off, but that doesn't stop us from placing a ton of bets. We have 11 future bets on the board. 11 bets on the board between a couple of different cards. 10 total units, 5 parlays, 6 money lines. You can unlock all of those bets right now, and you can check them out in the app by going to WeWantPicks.com and clicking Become a Member. It's freaking $10. The app's 100% free. You can download it right now. We're closing in on, I think, 2,000 downloads. Thank you all very much. We appreciate you for doing that. The content in the app will obviously constantly expand. This thing has only existed for a month. So download the app. Take a look at everything that it has to offer, including all the picks, the bets, and the tools. One of those successful bets is the safety parlay. Here's a look. 69% ROI, 9 of the last 10. And this success is going to carry right into 2025. That's why there's no breaks. You can't break your rhythm. You're on a heater. Whatever the ritual was, keep the ritual going. The ritual for me is breakdowns of cards every single week, and that is what we are doing. Unlock the safety parlay. All the other bets right now, WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. And if you want to send something for one of the vlogs, here is the address. We Want Picks, P.O. Box 406, Prosper, Texas, 75078. I mentioned 2 more vlogs to film. There is one where we are going to UFC Vegas 101, the Amanda Hebos Mackenzie Dern fight card. I've never been to the Apex. I will vlog my entire experience. The other vlog is on January 25th. We are going to a local MMA show. There's a local fight promoter here putting on a show in Frisco, Texas. We will be there. We will be attending. I'm going to vlog that whole thing. Maybe we'll give away some money to some of those fighters, because if you're not supporting local MMA, what the hell are you doing? You want to send something? We'll check it out. We'll open it on a vlog. P.O. Box 406, Prosper, Texas, 75078. What I assume will be a main card fight is Said Nurmagomedov taking on Vinicius Oliveira. This is a very good fight. The rest of this card, a lot of the fights I broke down are already pretty good. The rest of this card are very good matchups. It's a 6-fight main card. If you remove one fight, it's obviously 5. Pay-per-view main cards are 5 fights. This could be a pay-per-view main card. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm not being colorful. There's some really good matchups. This is one of them. We got Said Nurmagomedov. He's a flashy striker. Don't look at the no mustache, full beard, and the last name and assume he's a wrestler. He is not. He's a flashy striker who uses his length really well. His range can keep him dangerous both in and out of the pocket. He can literally throw kicks to your head while standing only a few feet in front of you. His striking is versatile. His takedown defense is solid at 65%. Not great, but good enough. The length does benefit on him feet, but it also benefits him on the ground as well. He uses the ridiculously long arms to lock up guillotines. This guy's guillotine is insane. In his last 5 fights, he's had 3 guillotines. Think about that. In 5 fights, he has had 3 guillotine wins, including his last fight against Muin Gafurov. You take the guy down, you better tuck that chin and hope for the best. He's taking on Vinicius Oliveira. He's a fun guy who charges forward. He throws everything at the wall, and he chases finishes. He is sloppy as hell, but very dangerous. He's not just chaos on the feet. He'll be chaos on the ground as well. He'll get you to the ground. He will just Donkey Kong style rain down punches and hammer fist. He's winning fights with aggression, with power, with creativity. He's coming off the decision win over Ricky Simone, where he doubled the strikes and defended 9 takedowns. And the question in this fight is, can you build an entire career off of one move? I mean, no, probably not. But Said is as close as anybody's going to get to doing it. The guy's got the 3 guillotines in his last 5 fights, and that is insane. His striking is solid. It's mostly point striking, but the guillotine is what's making him so insanely dangerous. If Vinicius was actually a little more cautious, I'd be all over him as a dog. I think his chaos could potentially work against him, where he's overly aggressive, puts himself into harm's way for no reason. But with that being said, I am still picking Vinicius here. The power, the striking volume, the versatility, the ability to wrestle can all serve him well. He's a plus 225 underdog. We'll see if that widens or tightens as the fight gets closer, but I do know he's probably going to need a finish. He's not going to get a gift of a decision here. Not in enemy territory. When Rinat Fakhretdinov won that fight just a few months ago at UFC 308, I think we all learned a valuable lesson about betting against the, not even local, but local to the region type guys. So Vinicius Oliveira, we'll see when the props drop. Maybe an inside the distance decision, no action. I don't know. We'll take a look. I am going to pick him, though. As crazy as it sounds, he's the more well-rounded fighter. Saeed's a very good, flashy striker, but we've seen him get out-wrestled. And as long as you can tuck that chin, not get sucked up by a guillotine, you could have some success. Multiple of those guillotine wins, like the one against Saeed Yokubub, Sideshow Bob, basically. That win, he was getting the shit kicked out of him. Then boom, sucked it up, got it done. Vinicius could have that same success here. We'll see what happens when this fight gets a little bit closer. Then we have Muhammad Naimov taking on Khan Afli. Muhammad Naimov, well-rounded guy. He does prefer to strike, but he can wrestle when he needs to. He's fast, he's athletic, old-school martial arts striking. He likes to plot forward and throw in some combinations. If he does close that distance, he'll clinch up and he'll strike from there. He will actively defend takedowns early in a fight, but if things aren't going his way in the striking exchanges, then he'll start to shoot offensively. He's coming off that submission loss to Felipe Lima, where he was a bit chinny, but he was having some early success. He's taking on Khan Afli, a BJJ black belt with okay takedowns and okay striking. He's busy on the ground. He's always looking for something. He's not the longest guy in the world, so he does rely on strength and controls the positions to try to work in some sweeps. He has offensive takedowns as well, but he can be taken down if you stick to a wrestling game plan against him. He's a short, compact guy, and he can be hard to move around. He's coming off that KO loss to Marlon Santos, where he moved forward, and he was looking to grapple, but he got cracked. This should be a Naimov win. He's strong. He can wrestle. He's got power in his hands. But I cannot touch Muhammad Naimov at 2-1 odds. There's always something up with a Muhammad Naimov fight. He was losing against Jamie Mullarkey before catching him in the second. He had foul after foul against Nathaniel Wood. His win over Eric Silva was a fluke injury, and even in his last fight, he was getting dropped, gassed out, and subbed. Muhammad Naimov doesn't have a clean win in the UFC. Obviously, he finished Mullarkey, but he was literally losing that fight. Go Google the scorecard if you don't believe that. So he should win here because Khan is a kind of a one-dimensional guy, but there is no shot I'm going 2-1 money on somebody that doesn't have a single clean win yet in the UFC. Muhammad Naimov should win, but between the fouls, the getting dropped, the miraculous come-from-behind victories, there's just a lot going on, okay? I'm conservative Ange. The reason I have the success I have betting is because I am conservative Ange. Am I up 198 units every week? No. Am I up units every week? Yeah, way more often than I'm not. Slow and steady wins this race. 2-1 Muhammad Naimov. That's not conservative Ange style. Then we have a very, very, very interesting heavyweight matchup. I love this fight. This is a pay-per-view main card fight. This is a phenomenal fight card, and let's hope it doesn't fall apart. We got Sergey Pavlovich taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Sergey Pavlovich is a beast of a striker, mostly a boxer, but he's got great power in his hands and incredible speed for a heavyweight. His striking volume is impressive as well. He does trust his chin quite a bit. He'll stand inside the pocket and bomb away. Trusting his chin can be a problem in some matchups, like it was in that Tom Aspinall fight, but his speed will keep him one step ahead of most others at heavyweight. He's got 0 takedowns in the UFC. He has attempted 0 takedowns in the UFC. He's coming off that decision loss to Alexander Volkov, where just a simple jab on the Alexander side made it hard for Sergey to do anything. And he's taken on former professional striker Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Very heavy-handed guy. He's a Muay Thai striker by trade. Style-wise, more of a counter striker. He finds his range when you overcommit. Similar to Sergey, though, you know what you're going to get. He has 0 takedowns in the UFC, and his takedown defense sits at 75%. He's coming off the decision win over Tai Tuivasa, where he tripled the strikes and showcased the technical skills. I was shocked to see that Jairzinho was a 2-1 underdog. I thought we all collectively just watched Sergey Pavlovich lose to Volkov because he couldn't deal with a jab. Didn't we just collectively decide that his technique kind of sucks and he's all just power? So why is he a massive favorite? Of course he can knock out Rozenstruik. These are heavyweights. They can all knock each other out. But Rozenstruik is an accomplished kickboxer. He should be able to stay safe, touch Pavlovich up. Rozenstruik is going to be the pick. And when BetOnline has these odds, I believe this is available on DraftKings right now. When BetOnline has them, you can expect a bet from me. Quick disclaimer. Jairzinho Rozenstruik did join one of our call-in shows, yucked it up with Jacob and I, hung out with the fans, answered your questions when you called in. So there may be some bias, but I genuinely don't think so. Because Rozenstruik still has no problem trolling me, putting me in his Instagram story every week. But the reality is, we just watched Sergey Pavlovich not be able to deal with a basic jab. Jairzinho Rozenstruik is a very accomplished striker who is patient, doesn't come charging in. So if Rozenstruik can manage the distance, blast Sergey when he comes charging in, Rozenstruik should be able to get it done. When I have these odds, expect a bet from Big Ange. Then we got Ikram Aliskerov taking on Andre Muniz. It's going to be a pretty easy pick for me, guys. Ikram Aliskerov, Russian wrestler. His hands have looked so good, he hasn't really needed to wrestle in the UFC. When he was wrestling, nonstop pressure, constant body locks, tie-ups, and shots. When he gets you to the ground, he's like an 8th layer of skin. He's impossible to shake. His striking is quickly improving with a high guard, solid combinations, great power. He is coming off that first-round knockout loss to Robert Whittaker, where he went from the Apex to Saudi Arabia on 1 week's notice. Cut him a little bit of slack there. Andre Muniz, BJJ guy. Jiu-jitsu is killer. Striking is just okay. It's there. The wrestling's okay as well. He hits pretty hard. He's got some clean striking entries. He's not going to shy away from a striking match either. He does not get desperate with the takedowns. He'll try to take some actual, real, official wrestling shots. And even though he avoids the BJJ butt scoot, I think we can call him a BJJ nerd. He's coming off that bounce back win over the Iron Turtle where he had 11 takedowns, but he still managed to get his strikes doubled. And that's why a bit of a BJJ nerd. And listen, you could categorize me as a nerd as well. Here's a giant bruise from jiu-jitsu yesterday. It was open mat. Went there. The way I grapple, I keep my head right in the middle. I have no problem burying it. Obviously to get some takedowns because I'm not a nerd. You'll never see me pull guard. And on the ground, constantly working forward for side control, climbing the body. The little guys love trying to wring my neck, and that's where these bruises come from. So I admire Andre Muniz's jiu-jitsu skills. I think they're very good. They're somewhat practical in MMA, not like Kron Gracie. But it's still a guy who's relying on essentially one skill to get wins, and I don't see it happening here. Ikram is a 3-1 favorite. I honestly think he should be a 5-1 favorite. Yeah, he was just knocked out in under 2 minutes, but that was against Robert freaking Whittaker. He took that fight on a few days' notice, flew to the other side of the world to go into a main event against one of the best middleweights that has ever existed. Also, Muniz kind of sucks. If he can't get the jiu-jitsu going, he's got nothing. He's going to struggle on the feet. He can struggle off his back if you got good defense. Look what Brendan Allen did to him. Look what Paul Craig did to him. I think Ikram's submission defense is going to be there. The striking will be better. I think he can wrestle his way to win, strike his way to a win. Ikram Aliskerov, a very confident pick here. I don't think Andre Muniz is really going to have a chance outside of a wild scramble on the ground. Then we have our co-main event of the evening, a phenomenal co-main event, a striker's delight. We got Nurmagomedov taking on Michael Venom Page. Two guys who are not going to be looking to wrestle. Nurmagomedov is a comic book villain. The guy's got one eye, a gap tooth, and a homeless beard. He also has great striking. He popped onto the scene last year. He was touted as a wild, insanely dangerous striker. And sure, he's got 15 fights with 12 knockouts, but knockouts haven't come as easy at the UFC level. He's insanely powerful. He's very fast. He'll mix up the striking techniques. His takedown defense is just okay. His offensive takedowns are non-existent, but he is coming off that insane double spinning back fist knockout win over Armen Petrosyan at UFC 308. Michael Venom Page is a savage. He's a striker. He's been very successful in Bellator. He's coming off an interesting fight with Ian Gary. We'll talk about in a second. But he is 37 years old. He's not the youngest guy in the division. But he's still dangerous. He's got that awkward, unorthodox striking style. He's very fast, very accurate, and very powerful. He is long, and he uses that range incredibly well to leap in and leap out. He is coming off of that loss to Ian Gary, where the reality was he was winning those striking exchanges, and Ian turned into a grappler. Michael's grappling is not very good at all. And I know a lot of people love Shara in this fight. I am very much on the fence. I might be giving too much credit to a 37-year-old in MVP, but he was also 37 years old when he beat Kevin Holland. And the only reason he lost to Ian Gary was the takedowns. MVP's speed and range management are still insane. Very few people have had any success with it. And I think we've got a great underdog here in Venom. I'm going to do one final ride on MVP. One final ride. I think I'm going to pick him. Shara can be hittable. Shara's got those low handstands, and while he does bounce around, he throws a million kicks. Michael Page might be able to pop in and pop out lightning fast. So Michael Venom Page is going to be the pick here, but again, he's fighting in enemy territory. I would not expect a decision to go his way, but this is going to be a really fun matchup that I am looking forward to. Then we have the main event of the evening. Israel Adesanya coming back after his second loss in a row. He did recently do an interview and essentially said, I forgot how great I was. And it's kind of a powerful message because I could see that happening. When you're on top of the world and you're one of the best middleweights ever, and they're talking about you being one of the best middleweights ever, and you literally beat the best middleweight ever, I could see you really believing yourself, and that confidence matters. You go into a fight knowing you're better, believing you're better, performing like you're better. Then you lose to Sean Strickland. Not a great loss, maybe embarrassing, depending on how you want to look at it. Then you come back out and you get sort of pushed around by DDP. All of a sudden, I can see not believing yourself anymore. MMA fans are not very forgiving bunch. The hate that Izzy was getting after those losses was absolutely insane. So I could see all of that weight, a couple losses in a row, all that random hate from anybody that's ever walked the face of the earth, just piling on. And you start to doubt yourself. Don't believe in yourself anymore. But he seems to be self-aware enough to say, I did not believe in myself. I thought I lost it, but I'm back. So for what it's worth, I kind of believe him. I believe that he's believing in himself again. And he has a matchup here that isn't one of the best fighters on the planet. It's not for a title. It's not a fight against the number 1, 2, or 3 guy in the world. But it is a tough fight. Izzy doesn't need much of a breakdown. We all know who he is, a phenomenal kickboxer. He's got power, but it's not necessarily one-punch power. It's from the incredible counter-striking. He's very hard to hit. He's hit with 3.21 significant strikes per minute. And considering the level of competition he has fought, that's an insane number. So Israel Adesanya has a solid takedown defense at 75%, even though he was just taken down 4 times by DDP. Phenomenal striker, but he is starting to age. He's 35 years old. He's taking on Nasruddin Imavov. Busy striker himself. He's constantly working towards his opponent. He can strike. He can counter-strike. He's got a nice jab, solid elbows. He looks very comfortable mixing it up. He has takedowns and solid control when he wants to use them, which is not very often. He has fewer than 1 takedown per fight. He doesn't rely on them very often. He's coming off that decision win over Brendan Allen, where the takedown defense looked phenomenal after the first round. And we're at a point in Izzy's career where we need to decide, is he completely washed up, or is he still one of the best fighters in the world? And sure, DDP just big brothered him, essentially bullied his way to a win. But I actually thought Izzy looked great on the feet. He was ripping the body. He managed to defend some takedowns. And it would have been a very different fight if he could defend all of those takedowns. The challenge here is knowing what Nasruddin will do. If his French ass decides to wrestle, then we could have an interesting situation where Nasruddin has a bunch of success. But if he wants to go strike for strike with Izzy, he's going to lose. Probably a decision, but he's going to lose. So I'm going to pick Izzy here. It's another spot where these odds are wide. I don't know if I can lay out 2-1 odds on a guy that hasn't won a fight in 2 years. But Israel Adesanya is going to be the better striker in what probably will be a striking matchup. But Nasruddin may show up, try to Nurmagomedov his way to a win. I'm curious what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. Guys, that's the breakdown. But it's not the end of the road. We also have a bunch of bets on the board. Check those bets out now. We have 11 bets on the board right now. Almost 10 total units of bets for you ready to go. You can unlock every single one of those. And then check them out inside the app. Go to the iOS App Store, search We Want Picks, download the app, everything you could ever want or need in your hands. All the tools, all the picks, all the bets right there on your app. including push notifications. You're going to get the Data Analyzer. Data Analyzer is a tool that is not only incredible, but it's future-proof, meaning it has future events. Every event is loaded in there. You can go ahead, be multiple fight cards ahead, start to look at the data, start to find your spots, do your research. It has a full tape index. You want to watch these fights? Pull up Data Analyzer, click one of those plots on the chart. Fight pops up. You can watch that fight right there, ready to go. You're going to get tools like the line movement tracker. You're going to get the prop hunter. You're also going to get a New Zealand guy breaking down non-UFC fights and an artificial intelligence breaking down fights with remarkable accuracy. Every single freaking thing that I just mentioned, only $10 for an entire month. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member. Unlock all the bets we've got going on. Unlock all the tools. Unlock every single thing that we do. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. Guys, I appreciate the watch. I appreciate the views. We're trying to do different content like hot takes, the vlogs. I'd appreciate if you check that stuff out as well. Thanks for everything. I hope you had a great holiday. Hope New Year's is phenomenal. And let's continue to be successful in 2025.